It was just a notebook, ordinary at first glance. Yellow paper, smeared ink, quick sketches that seemed half-formed, even careless. But this particular notebook belonged to a man whose thought refused to stay within the margins. Leonardo da Vinci. What appears, at first, to be chaotic cripples quickly reveal itself as something else entirely. Here is a sketch of flying machine next to a study of feature in the womb. A list of water flow observations sit beside caricature human faces, tread intractable emotion. It's a world without boundaries, where curiosity moves faster than language and logic falls in institution. Leonardo notebooks wasn't written for an audience. They were private explorations, part journal, part laboratory, part century. Yet centuries later, we still live through them in awe, sensing we are in the presence of a mind that not only saw the future, but trying to reverse engineer it. So, the question stands, are we ready not just to admire Leonardo's genius, but to truly understand the way he thought? To encounter Leonardo notebooks is to encounter contradiction. Alongside his elegant anatomical drawings and architectural sketches are pages filled with grotesque faces, exaggerated nose, bulging eyes, contorted expressions, captured in startling detail. They seem almost cartoonish, even absurd, but they are anything but frivolous. Art critics have described this body of work as phantasmagoric and nearly from what we know called surrealism. This grotesque was an exercise in humor or fantasy. They were Leonardo's laboratory for decoding the human condition. He believed emotion lived in the face, and he approached expression with the rigor of a scientist. Each twisted mouth or eyebrow was a study in motion, mood, and movement. In his expression studies, Leonardo dissected not just the physicality of the face, but its psychological depth. He once wrote that a good painter must depict not only the martial, but the mind behind them. In this, we see the fusion of his two worlds, art and empirical observation. These sketches, grotesque to some, were for Leonardo a gateway into understanding humanity itself, and they hint at something larger. His refusal to stay within one discipline or to accept simple beauty as the only stand-up of truth. This was not the work of a painter alone. It was the work of a multidimensional thinker operating in the full spectrum of human experience. To call Leonardo da Vinci a painter is technically accurate, but profoundly incomplete. He was, by turn, a scientist, engineer, anatomist, botanist, architect, and philosopher. He designed a weapon of war and study of peace. He asked questions not even the future knew to ask. His full name was Leonardo Piero da Vinci, Leonardo, son of Piero, from Vinci. Born on April 15, 1452, in the rolling hills of Tuscany. He came to the world as a legitimate child. His father was a wealthy notary, his mother a peasant. Because of this, Leonardo was spared from formal classical education. No Latin, no Greek, no access to the scholarly elite. But the separation from the academic world may have been this liberation. Leonardo was not trained to think like everyone else. He observed instead of reciting. He experiments instead of memorizing. In the world of rules, he became a questioner. In the world of structures, he became a bridge. And perhaps, just perhaps, being born outside convention gave his mind permission to roam free. Leonardo's early life was marked not by privilege but by exclusion. His illegitimacy denied him access to humanist education, surprised in Renaissance Italy. While the sons of noblemen studied Latin and philosophy, Leonardo learned by watching nature, people, motion, light. At age 14, his world shifted. His father arranged apprenticeship with Andrea del Verrocchio, a master painter and sculptor in Florence. It wasn't just a studio, it was the crucible of the Renaissance. Florence was humming with invention, art, architecture, and intellectual fervor. Inside Verrocchio's workshop, Leonardo encountered more than paint. He worked with metals, studied sculpture, designed mechanism, and learned the mathematical ratio behind beauty. The studio was equal parts artistic academy and engineering lab. This environment didn't train Leonardo in one discipline, it trained him in all of them. Here, he learned that form had function, that beauty could measure, and that art and science were not rivals, but reflection. The seeds of universal mind were planted not in books, but in bronze and brushstroke. One story stands out from Leonardo's early years, and it bordered on legend. While working in Verrocchio's studio, Leonardo was asked to paint a single angel in the background of Baptism of Christ. His brushwork was softer, the shadow more fluid, the figure somehow alive. Verrocchio, seeing his student contribution next to his own, is said to have put down his brush and never painted again. Whether the story is literal or symbolic hardly matters. What it reveals is Leonardo astonishing, commanding of technique, even as a teenager. He didn't just replicate what he was taught, he transcended it. His handling of light, texture, and anatomy quietly announced a new era. In that moment, Leonardo didn't just finish a painting. He began his ascent. One of Leonardo's most puzzling habits was his writing, right to left, in manuscript. At first glance, it looked like a cipher. Some believe it was due to his left-handedness, a way to keep ink from smirking. Others argue it was deliberate, a method to word his ideas, or to slow down reader not meant to follow. But perhaps it was something deeper. Leonardo's mind was always inverting, challenging norms, flipping perspectives. His writing mirrored not just words, but thought itself. These notebooks wasn't written for the public. They were pirate explorations, mental blueprint for a world no one else could yet see. In them, we don't just read what Leonardo knew. We witness how he became who he was. Long before modern medicine mapped the human body, Leonardo da Vinci was already inside it. Scalpel in hand, sketchbook at the ready. At hospital in Florence, Milan, and Rome, Leonardo performed detailed dissections on human cadavers. What he observed, he documents with unmatched precision. Layer of muscle, the branching of arteries, the spiral of intestine. His drawings didn't just illustrate anatomy, they explained it. Among his most astonishing studies is a feature in the womb, rendered with a delicate realism and anatomical accuracy. Centuries ahead of his time, he visualized not just the form of life, but its mechanics. Leonardo didn't see the body as a static form. He saw it was a machine, one built from levels, relays, hinges, and hydraulics. His drawing often compared the human frame to bridges, gears, and water system. In doing so, he laid the conceptual groundwork for what we now call biomechanics. In a time when science and art were separate, Leonardo refused the divine. He used the artist's eye to uncover the engineered truth. No single painting has sparked more debate, more speculation, or more reverence than the Mona Lisa. To call it a portrait feels insufficient. It is a puzzle, subtle, psychological, and strangely intimate. We know the subject, Lisa Gherardini, the wife of a Florentine sea merchant, but we don't really know her. Leonardo captures something just out of reach. Her gaze follows you, her lips curl, but into what? A smile? A sigh? A secret? Sigmund Freud once called the Mona Lisa the embodiment of the emotional duality, a smile poisoned between compassion and contempt, emotion and seduction. Others have seen creep beneath her serenity. Leonardo studied facial expression obsessively. He understood the mechanics of emotion long before psychology gave it a name. So, we're left to wonder, even now, is she smiling or mounting something we never understand? Leonardo da Vinci didn't just imagine art, he imagined the future. In his notebooks are designs that feel like time travel. Ornithopters, machines with flapping wings, inspired by birds. Submersibles centuries before submarines. A prototype of an armor's tank, shaped like a spinning turtle. Rotating bridges meant to amaze on the move. Hydraulic pumps designed to aggregate entire cities. Most of these inventions were never built in his lifetime. Some were impractical with the materials of his era. Others were simply overlooked, filed away in his spiraling microscope notes, but the present on the page is no less extraordinary. Leonardo visualized technologies that wouldn't appear for another 300 or 500 years. His engineering wasn't just functional, it was visionary. He didn't just sketch how things work, he imagined how they could work. In that sense, Leonardo notebooks aren't relics, they are blueprint for a world still catching up. Leonardo da Vinci never saw art and science as opposites. To him, they were twins, different language describing the same truth. He dissected the human body with the same intensity he applied to engineering sketches. He studied proportion not just to draw it better, but to understand the symmetry, balance, and the laws that govern nature itself. His architectural visions were grounded in geometry. His aesthetic choices were driven by mathematical precisions. For Leonardo, beauty wasn't just seen, it would measure. This holistic approach defined the spirit of the Renaissance, a belief that knowledge is unified. Today, we call it STEM: science, technology, engineering, art, and math. But Leonardo practiced it 5 centuries ago without needing an acronym. In his mind, understanding the world wasn't about choosing a path, it was about connecting them. Leonardo da Vinci influence didn't end in the Renaissance. It sketched through every modern discipline. In medicine, his anatomical sketches still appear in textbooks. In engineering, his mechanical drawings echo today machines. In art, his principle of light, proportion, and emotional continue to guide generations. He studied in biology classes, architecture studios, design labs, and philosophy seminars because Leonardo didn't just paint the world, he reimagined its rules. His genius was too vast for one field, too forward for his time, too curious to be caged by convention. 5 centuries later, we're still trying to catch up. His mind wasn't confined by borders or by centuries. It was and remains borderless. Leonardo da Vinci was more than a man. He was a mirror held up to human possibility. His genius wasn't confined to one gift. It was fueled by one force, curiosity without limits. He didn't ask whether he was an artist or scientist. He simply wondered and then created. Perhaps his true legacy isn't what he left behind, but what he still calls us to explore. What would you build, paint, or question if nothing was off limits? What inspired you most about Leonardo? Let us know in the comments. Share this story with a fellow creator, innovator, or curious mind. Follow us for more explorations into history's greater thinkers. Start your own notebook because every genius begins with a blank page.